the passion and sort of the camaraderie and togetherness that the league kind of provides. It's one of those. The board of directors is all they're all people who work with the teams and for the teams individually. So the fact that they're all collaborating and sharing their best practices for their own teams with each other to kind of strengthen the overall league as a whole is something that really stood out to me sitting in those board meetings, and something that I think is different than a lot of these other leagues that operate for profit.
Welcome on in, morning Kickaround, continuing our journey to dot the map of the American soccer landscape with the partnership with the Midwest Premier League, getting to know the Midwest Premier League through the review of power rankings. On this edition, we're going to bring in Garrett Pog, media coordinator for the Midwest Premier League, to give us some detailed look into the Midwest Premier League as we stand at the moment. Garrett, thank you for joining us. Looking forward to digging into some Midwest Premier League here.
Yeah, it's a great day to be a soccer fan. It's USA Game Day, and we got some exciting matches in our league as well. So looking forward to diving into all the different conferences that the Midwest Premier League has to offer.
Yes, so today, the latest dispatch, the third edition of the power rankings of the 2026 Midwest Premier League. And before we get these names on the screen with the top 10 and the honorable mentions, kind of give us your sketch of what the Midwest Premier League's ethos as it differs from other summer leagues before we get into the specific teams.
You know, one of the things that stood out to me even before I worked for the league was just the passion and sort of the camaraderie and togetherness that the league kind of provides. It's one of those. The board of directors is all they're all people who work with the teams and for the teams individually. So the fact that they're all collaborating and sharing their best practices for their own teams with each other to kind of strengthen the overall league as a whole is something that really stood out to me sitting in those board meetings, and something that I think is different than a lot of these other leagues that operate for profit and, you know, kind of serve as, you know, let's make the guys at the top very rich, but all the folks in our board of directors work volunteer. And I would like to think of myself as volunteer for the most part. You know, it's not necessarily true, but yeah, there's just a lot of camaraderie and just togetherness in terms of the way that the league is structured and the way that they build each other up.
Yeah, for us, by sort of mentality is what I've always perceived in my orbit of the game, doing commentary and podcasting in and around the league. But one of the most interesting things, in my opinion, is the clubs themselves, the ones running it. There's storied teams that have been around for a generation plus, but there's also an incubation sort of an aspect to it, of brand new teams giving it a go at a low expense and DIY sort of a level.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. And there's a lot of teams who kind of come in out of nowhere and really shock some people with the way that they're able to just kind of transform the game. And then there's also others, and we'll get into it, you know, because I think there's plenty of teams like that throughout our power rankings that, they do have that storied history, you know, names that even though you're not from the area, you recognize the name and you say, oh, wow, you know, Scott Gallagher. I know those people. Those people are tough, you know, SOBs to be reckoned with. So, I'd say that's a good summarization on your end.
All right, so we'll put on screen here the power rankings as of today, June 19th. Tell us about these teams and how they got here, Garrett.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with a bit of criteria, because this is one of the things that I've already had owners and coaches reach out to me, be like, all right, what are the criteria? What are people voting on? Our committee is made of 3 members, myself, Soccer Zombie, who's very well known in the St. Louis area, and then Lower League USA, who operates, funny enough, out of the United Kingdom. So the 3 of us kind of decide based on recent results, the current standings, and we're making sure that we are inclusive of all of our conferences, making sure that everybody's represented to some extent. So that's kind of like the main 3 criteria. And then after that, there's not a lot of discussion amongst the 3 of us. We kind of just vote our top 10 just based as I see it. And this is my first time being part of a rankings committee like this, but it's difficult, especially, but it's
responsibility, it's Garrett.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where, you know, especially in this league where a lot of teams, you know, teams from Kansas City aren't going to play teams in Detroit. So it's kind of up to it's very subjective in the way, all right, what's the strength of competition? You know, what are we looking at here? And so I think that this is the first power rankings that I've been able to build where I could build a top 10 based on strictly resume. And there's some other teams that, or at least the past two power rankings, where you're kind of going on some sort of name value, at least, because there weren't that many games played and not every team had played up to that point, at least in the first edition. But this time around, it's like, okay, there's a little more. You can see what teams are really starting to build and what the team is as of today, June 19th. So we can start with those who received votes but did not make the top 10. Steel City FC lost a 1-0 game to Sarnialo, who's sitting up there at number 7. I think whoever won that game was going to make the top 10. Two very capable teams in Heartland Division 2. Boff St. Louis, they're kind of in a place where we haven't seen them play their strongest competition yet. I do believe they play tonight against ATAR Belleville, one of the better teams in the Gateway East. So I'm excited to see how that turns out. RKC Third Coast, another Division 2 team. Had a 3-3 draw against Chicago Soccer Academy, who made the top 10. Other than that, they haven't played that many games this season, so I'm curious to see where they end up. I think they were like just a couple points shy of getting promoted last year, so it's likely that they could be in a similar spot with this season. And then Goshen City FC, I'm sure those folks are not happy about it. They won the Great Lakes Championship last year. Only one blemish on their season, losing to Midwest United a few weeks back. And they have a pretty rocking matchup against Lansing Common FC that's going to be coming up here in the next couple weeks. So I think that's going to really determine how the Great Lakes West is going to shape up.
Yeah, to brush everyone up on this, how many conferences and divisions are there altogether?
So 3 conferences that span throughout the Midwest, of course. The Great Lakes Conference is mostly made up of teams in Michigan, one team in Ohio, or some teams in Indiana as well. And the Heartland Conference is mostly made up of the Chicagoland area. There's some folks out in eastern Iowa, southeast Wisconsin. I had to think of my cardinal directions there. And then the Gateway is made up of teams mostly in the Missouri area. With we kind of expanded the Gateway West into the Kansas City area as well. So a lot of teams in St. Louis and stuff like that.
Just as a note, right? Because for people who maybe are getting introduced to Midwest Premier League, I mean, the thing that stands out for me, number one, these clubs are incredibly creative, which I love. But also, what you're talking about with the conferences, and the league is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's so big. But what you guys are making sure of is there are teams nearby that they can play, right? These clubs are working with budgets and like travel and things like that. And so, get a bunch of teams in the Chicagoland area. Now you got a conference and everybody can play one another. That sounds great.
Yeah, because there's been, and I'm not in these conversations, but I know there have been discussions about expanding into different markets and territories. But the reality is that there's only 2 teams in Southern Ohio that want to join our league. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to be able to travel back and forth, not only for the new teams that are expanding and they're working with new budgets for the first time, but also for the teams that have been in our league since the beginning, since 2021, that now would have to travel however many hours south in this scenario just to be able to include 2 new teams, right? So when we expand, we want to make sure that there is a bounty of teams and that it's going to be a lively division and a lively conference. I think that was one of the biggest things that stood out into our expansion into Kansas City, was making sure that we had 4 teams that were ready to sign on right away, and then from that we were able to add some more Kansas City based teams that made sense with the Midwest Premier League.
Yeah, the expansion, sort of like localized expansion still.
Yes.
Like the umbrella of Midwest Premier League is seeking expansion, but still to create local soccer and add the density to the map that we're dotting here. So we've seen the top list here. Are we ready to get to our top 3, do you think? Or is there any other notes?
Let's count down from 10. Garrett's got to hit the clubs that are in the top 10. Now we've talked about the receiving votes. Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, of course. I would. I don't know. I'd like to at least kind of elaborate some of my thoughts on this as well. I'm not going to reveal my votes specifically or any votes. I'll just kind of talk about where some of the highs and lows are based on each individual top 10 voting. Chicago Soccer Academy. There has not been this outward conversation between me and the other voters, but Heartland Division 2 teams, we kind of view them as what they are, which is a Division 2 squad. Sarnialo, who we'll get to in a little bit, is a team that has not allowed a goal this season. Last year they were in Division 1 and they didn't earn a single point. So there is a very clear difference for me as to what a Division 2 and Division 1 team looks like and what those divisions look like. That being said, Chicago Soccer Academy has dominated Division 2B, and they, 4 wins, no losses, 1 draw, on the season. That one draw was against a very good RKC Third Coast. They've won blowouts. They've come from behind. They've won close games. I think they've had a clean sheet as well. I mean, so they've really done well for themselves, and they're kind of a team that I look at as a shoe-in for promotion at this point. But I know there's a lot of soccer to be played, and there's a lot of goals that have to be scored in order for that to happen. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself there. Am I good to just continue forward? You fellas got thoughts you want to pop in?
That's great.
I think it's great that there's the density here to have a second division here. And
Right.
What's the functionality of the pro rel there? Like, how many are up and down?
So it's going to be 2 up, 2 down for promotion relegation. Division 2 is structured more as a pyramid rather than a straight ladder. So there's Division 2A and then Division 2B. And there's, so the top team in each division is going to be the ones that are promoted. And then the bottom 2 from Division 1 will be sent down. And then we'll sort out based on expansion and, where best fits are. We'll decide who goes into Group A and Group B from there.
Part of what's exciting about going through this list and learning about these teams is that you'll kind of see as we go up the list. I'm sure the number 7 team will come to that, but really at the heart of the idea of Midwest Premier League kind of started in Chicago and kind of worked its way out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it aligns perfectly with the 2030 plan, which for those who aren't familiar, when the league was first founded and established, there was an idea that we wanted to really have a functioning promotion relegation system throughout the entirety of the league, not just one conference, not just one division, but throughout the entire league. That plan is still in place. There are, it's very likely that we're going to be able to make that plan, maybe even before 2030. I don't want to get too ambitious, but it's
why not?
It's It's in the works, we'll say, and I'm not paid enough to be a part of those conversations. But it's very exciting to see the density of teams, even in the Detroit area as well as St. Louis, that there are chances for potential promotion relegations even as early as next season. So very exciting stuff there. I'll move up to number 9 and number 8. I can kind of group these together. I'm sure Gateway West fans are not going to be happy with AFC Columbia and Woodland FC dropping in the rankings. This is not any fault of their own. They both have had very successful seasons, and it's going to be exciting to see these guys play against each other again, and in which the first time Woodland FC actually beat Columbia 3-0. And so I think they end their season against each other, and that might be a win in your end game for the Gateway Championship, potentially. But the reality is I think the teams above them have had better results in the past 2 weeks, and honestly just tougher competition. And that's not to say anything about the Gateway West and what they've been able to do out there. But yeah, Columbia and Woodland FC are 2 teams that are going to continue to prove themselves, but I think it's just a matter of who's going to fall first in terms of the Gateway West standings.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens in the Gateway West because the Missouri structure is so new, and for so long it was very fractured there. And it seems like the first chance that area has really had an ability to play in kind of an organized sort of everyone working in one direction. Everything kind of seemed fractured there. I can't help but notice there's my OCFC started so strong in the first edition of these ratings. not even in the mentions there, starting out 2-0 and losing everything since. But we move on to number 7. What do we got?
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning. I do want to shout out Zach Fisher, who is the expansion committee member that's out there in that Missouri area and who's done a great job, reaching out to those teams and allowing that area to grow as much as it has. Number 7, Sarnia Yalo from Heartland 2A. They have yet to allow a goal on the season.
Hey.
4-0, no losses, no draws. They are a Division 2 team, like I've mentioned, so I think that prevents me from pushing them as high as some of these other clubs. We had a voter rank them as high as number 2. So there's a lot of faith that the Sarnia Yalo team is really going to elevate themselves. Their strongest competition was Steel City FC. They won 1-0 on Monday this week. They won't play them again this season. So it's the ball is at Sarnia Yalo's feet in terms of being able to pretty much win and earn promotion back into Division 1, where they were relegated from last season.
All right. Sounds
for those
great.
unfamiliar, a team out of Chicago, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And obviously we're listening to Garrett say it so that I don't butcher the name. When you put a C and a Z together, that's gonna be tough for me. But again, a reflection of some community elements in Chicago, I'm sure.
And to be honest with you, I don't know how that's pronounced either. I'm trying my best.
Oh, okay. Oh, well. Okay, we're flying by the seat of our pants. It's very much the morning kick around way of things. I like it.
I've texted with them before. I've not spoken with them, so I'm not sure the pronunciation. We'll move on to the Great Lakes West Lansing Common FC, a name synonymous with the Midwest Premier League. They've been in it since the beginning. Unblemished in terms of losses on the season, 4-0-1 on the year. Had a great tie to start their season against 1927 to keep to earn points in all of their games this season. Some dominating wins as well. It's there's a lot of faith from the coffee firm and other 517 folks out there that are interested in seeing their team potentially get back to a Great Lakes championship game. That'd be their first, I think, in quite some time for them. The Robins are performing very well. Not a whole lot to say beyond that.
Yeah, well, definitely synonymous with the Midwest Premier League is a good way to put it. Some of the leadership of the league is involved there, and definitely have led the way as far as how they've came into the world as the supporter created and run team. Their ethos rings with a lot of people across the area outside of the Midwest. Number 5, closer to me, FC Pontiac. What can you say about them in the Great Lakes East? FC
Pontiac is a team. I'll say myself, I had them at number 3. I find it very hard to believe that they're not a top 3 team because they're 5-0, no losses on the year. They've won games in various different methods, whether it's a blowout or a close game. They had a clean sheet against Cedars FC, who was in the championship match last season, and they beat Toledo Villa, who was number 5, I believe, in our rankings last time as well. They've dropped right out. Yeah, I mean, FC Pontiac is kind of shot out of a cannon and really amazed us with the amount of work that they've been able to do this season on the field. I'm very excited to see. Now, they do play Michigan Jaguars FC tonight. If Jaguars win, I mean, all hell is going to break loose in the Great Lakes East because that division will be anyone's for the taking. But if FC Pontiac does what they've been doing, and that's, winning consistently, putting the ball in the net, I mean, this division might be theirs for the taking. And they still have yet to play Oakland County. I think that's a matchup that's worth circling on the calendar. But beyond that, FC Pontiac has been phenomenal. And the folks over there, largely a Liverpool and Arbor-based group, have done a phenomenal job coaching that team.
Yeah, last year was tough for them, and they've definitely turned it around here seemingly. And I think this is the second year they're operating as FC Pontiac. Correct. Second. And then it's surprising to see them there. And Cedars FC, who I don't see on the list, has been a powerhouse in this division for the last few years.
Yeah, Cedars FC, tough couple games to start the year. They lost 4-2 to Michigan Jaguars FC just a couple days ago. Just not the hot start out of the gate that most people would have expected from that club.
Yeah, they've won the Great Lakes Conference a number of occasions. I think maybe even back to back here, but strong team indeed. But yeah, FC Pontiac taking the representative of the Great Lakes East there. Another familiar name for those who know the Midwest Premier League, but Cedar Rapids Inferno. Are they up or down? Just the one spot down.
They are down. So the red arrow on the far left will indicate what. So they were number 1 a couple weeks ago. They were unblemished. The last time the rankings were around, I mean, they got thwarted by Bavarian United SC 4-0, and it's very tough when you get skunked like that to maintain your number 1 spot. So there are some folks who believe that they are very good. One of our voters has them at number 1 still. But it's going to be difficult. They have a lot of road games ahead of them, so it's one of those things where, all right, were they just a really great team at home, and now the road season's we're going to see who they really are, or is this a team that's legit, and here to stay? They were my pick to win Heartland Division 1 prior to the year beginning. I will probably maintain that, even though they weren't as high in my power rankings this time around, just because of that recent not great loss.
All right, so that brings us to the moment where we kind of see who was there, who wasn't there last week, what names remain, who fell, and who got into the top 3. So we'll reveal the 3rd edition of the Power Rankings, number 3, right here.
ATAR Belleville FC from the Great Lakes East, the Gateway East out in St. Louis. Excuse me. We had a voter rank them as high as number 1, even though they're, I think, number 4 in their own division. It's very interesting to see. They had a great I mean, phenomenal 3-0 win against St. Louis Scott Gallagher a couple days ago, or actually this past Saturday. Um, it's one of those things where the voters are kind of split. You see on the bottom left there, you can see there's a voter that had them as low as number 10. So not as huge of a believer in Atar Belleville and what they've been able to do. This is a team that competes at a high level very regularly out there in St. Louis. They play Boff St. Louis tonight. I think we're going to get a better idea of what those two teams are, two teams that are typically top 10 in the league. I love what Atar Belleville has been able to do in their short season so far. There's going to be a lot of games that will play out, and we'll really get a sense of, okay, who is this team for real? But Atar Belleville has been one that's been phenomenal to watch so far.
Hey, I like their colors there too. Are they the American Norwich City here with the color scheme?
Could be that. Could be that. On the day that we're talking, the day that we're recording this, it's a little too Australian for me. I'll just say that.
that might be a little bit more on the nose. Yeah. That color's under some heat here. So that brings us to this week's number 2, and we've mentioned it a couple times. St. Louis Scott Gallagher here.
Yeah, a team worth talking about. I think one of the biggest gets in terms of expansion this past season. So this is their first year in the Midwest Premier League. You'll notice the high and low is kind of hard to see, so I apologize for that. But as highly ranked as number 3, as low as ranked as number 5. So no one voted them in the top 2, but the cumulative points amongst the 3 voters was enough to keep them in that number 2 position. They had that bad loss this past weekend, but still a team that has a lot of name value behind them, and a team that won a game 9-0 earlier this season. I mean, like when you say St. Louis Scott Gallagher, everyone knows who they are. They have some very important matches ahead of them, including one against Boff St. Louis, who I mentioned before. It's going to be very important that they kind of maintain, because they are still at the top of the Gateway East. It's going to be important that they maintain their top spot despite the losses this past weekend.
Yeah, one of the teams with name recognition, kind of reflecting that mix of storied clubs and those just pushing out the raft in the water.
Yeah, there's some U.S. men's national team connections in the current moment to St. Louis Scott Gallagher. They've got a deep history developing professional players. So that's like you said, Garrett, that's a great get for Midwest Premier League.
All right, so that brings us to June 19th, number 1. Let's give this sound effect an effect. Who will be number 1 in the power rankings? There you go, another storied team.
Yeah, I mentioned him earlier. Bavarian United SC had that great win against Cedar Rapids Inferno this past weekend with a 4-0 victory. Voter ranked them as high as number 1. We had another person rank them as low as number 4. They are at the top of the Heartland Division 1 as of this current moment, and they are the winners of the $100 gift card that is in partnership with Select Sport America, who sponsors these power rankings and allows us to be able to put these power rankings out as often as we do. But Bavarian United, they've had a great season so far. They had a 0-0 tie to start the year. Ever since then, it's just been win after win after win, really dominating opponents, and it's hard to see them not being in the top 2 or 3. I mean, just a very storied club, as we've talked about, and one that's been performing at a very high level this season.
All right, so number 1 here, Bavarian United, Wisconsin-based team, of course, been around for a very long time, and one of the most storied around all of the expanding Midwest Premier League. So this is the 3rd edition. How many more power rankings are we going to see through the year? Because I'm curious what teams we haven't seen on the list that we might be able to talk about. Maybe someone make a run. So how many more editions are there for the opportunity for other teams to get in this list?
I don't have a number off the top of my head. They are every other Friday, though. So the next edition we will have will be around 4th of July weekend, July 3rd to be exact. So there's certainly a lot of marquee games that will happen within the next 2 weekends to allow us to see where these teams are. We talked about Pontiac, Michigan Jaguars. Jaguars are a team we haven't seen on the top 10, but they could very easily be there with a great win against Pontiac tonight and some other victories. Boff St. Louis, Atar Belleville is another marquee matchup that is tonight. I say they're tonight because I try to keep track of matches that are happening right in front of me. But over the next weekend, there's a bounty of clubs that perform on a week in, week out basis. Just a lot of great opportunities for teams to potentially make the list and teams to drop out, fall in, however it works out. So I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, as the world's eye is on the World Cup, on the North America, the local battles and the local soccer battles on. That, of course, a Midwest Premier League going strong here throughout the summer. And thank you for joining us, Garrett, and kind of giving us some detailed looks at these teams and the results and the process of getting to the power rankings. And so until next time, I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Thank you to the Midwest Premier League for helping us dot the map across America, including those in the Midwest. So until next time, everybody get out there, be brave, be safe, and enjoy your soccer.